Hey everyone, I've decided to record the video for my lessons learned over the last 1,000 trades and the evaluation process, but I've decided to split them up so each lesson will be its own individual video. I think that's easier for me to record and edit, and also I think it'll just get too long if I put all the lessons together. And this way I can also elaborate a little bit more on the lessons learned and talk about some of the details that really made a difference for me. So the first lesson that sticks out to me was I mentioned in my first video when I did the 6 lessons from my first 100 trades that trading was hard. And over time, over the next 4 or 5 years, I realized that it wasn't necessarily hard for everyone, and it wasn't equally hard for everyone. A lot of people around me were struggling when I was struggling in 2017, 2018, even even up to 2020. But then after 2020, when they were trading full time from home, their results started to skyrocket, and a lot of people really started to do well in 2020. Not necessarily the same strategies as I trade, or not even using Brooks price action at all, but just traders in general. Um, they all took a jump in the right direction and became really profitable. And so that kind of made me look at myself and see and realize that I've been trading for a long time, but I'm not progressing at the same pace as they are. And another thing that I noticed is that a lot of webinars and seminars were being held by people who would come up and say, I've been trading for 6 years. And I'm thinking, I've been trading for almost 6 years. Why are you on that side teaching a webinar? And I'm still here struggling. So I think that really made me look deeply at my process and how I approach trading education. A lot of my time was spent looking at charts and trying to understand, should my stop be wider, or do I need a tighter stop, and figuring out my entries. And I realized maybe it's not that needs work, and it's more my process and my approach to trading education. So I really started to look deeply into that, and that's when I started to realize why I found trading so hard, and a few things that have helped me since, to help me get back on track and try to fix some of those problems. So on that journey of trying to figure out why I was struggling so much, I started to look at like books about learning and try to understand, like, how do you learn something properly, and what am I doing that differs from that convention of how to learn something effectively. And I picked up this book called Ultra Learning by Scott Young, and in the book he talks about a lot of different pillars of learning effectively, but there are a couple pillars in there that really showed me why trading is so unlike other skills and why it's so much more difficult than other skills. And this one pillar, which is called feedback, and specifically outcome feedback. In most skills, there's some desired outcome, and it's a clear desired outcome. So, for example, if you're learning how to play a song on the piano or guitar, you would know if you made a mistake. If your version doesn't sound the same as the the actual song, then it's a clear indication that you did not reach the desired outcome and you need to change something. Or if you're playing basketball and you shoot a basketball, you throw a basketball towards a basket and it goes in, you reach the desired outcome. If it doesn't go in, then you didn't reach the desired outcome and something needs to be changed. The difficulty with trading is that there is no clarity of outcome. We can say that the outcome is making money, but you can take a good trade and lose money, and you can take a bad trade and make money. So there isn't any reliability when you get outcome feedback from the market. And that's one of the things that makes it so difficult, is that you can't go to the market and make a decision and expect to get any valuable information from it. It'll give you a unit of information, but that on its own doesn't mean anything. And that was one of the biggest mistakes for me, and something that I learned for myself, is my habit going through life and learning skills was primarily based on outcome feedback. Is I would do something and it wouldn't work, and I would try something else, and then I would do it again and try it again. And if it didn't work, I would try something else. And I would just keep doing that based on the outcome, and how close I was to it. And that's how I approach trading as well. And I think that's what led to a lot of the problems when I was starting out. And even now, like I still have some signs of it, but it's much better now that I've been able to reflect on it. But I think that was one of the big things that made it so difficult for me, is because I was using um, I was using the outcome to inform my decision making. So I would take a trade, and if it didn't go well, I would say, okay, so that doesn't work in the market. Let me do something else. But you can have a favorable trade or a favorable market condition or market environment, and there's a trade that you should be taking, but you can mess it up by using a target that's too big, or you can mess it up by using a target that's too small and a stop that's too wide. There are many ways to mess up an actually good entry and good trade. And similarly, you can take a really bad market environment and structure a trade to make it work, but in the short term. So you could use like a 7 point stop and a 1 point target, and you can win 60, 70, 80% of the time, and many times in a row. But that shouldn't inform your, or I'm saying your, but I mean mine. It shouldn't inform one's understanding of market structure. And that's what I was doing. I was trying to use my decisions and my outcomes to then understand the market from it. I'd buy high in the trading range, and I would use a 7 point stop, like all the way down at the bottom of the trading range, and just scalp for 1 point. And I would win 6 or 7 times in a row. And to me, that meant you're doing a good thing. So keep doing it. But just because I structured the trades so asymmetrically, it was working out a lot, but that doesn't mean anything. And that's the mistake. It's not the fact that the market doesn't give accurate outcome feedback, but the mistake and the lesson for me is not to use the outcome to then govern decisions about how to trade the market, because you can structure a trade any way you'd like, and it won't tell you anything about market structure. So the main lesson there for me was that you can't learn market structure from trading outcomes. And that's what I feel like I've been doing for the last 2 years, or even more in the last 6 months, that I've been really focused on trading structure, or not trading structure, but market structure, and how the market actually moves. And forget about the trades you're taking and the stop you're using and the target you're using. Just how does a market actually move? And then once I can understand that properly, then I can structure a trade around it. And then sometimes in a good market structure, or like a market structure that's favorable for going long, sometimes you can use a narrow stop or a tight stop and a big target. Sometimes you can use a wide stop and a small target, but at least the principles of the market are sound, and then you can make decisions based on that. But I was doing it the opposite way, because that's what worked for me forever. So in other disciplines and other skills. So I think that was a major lesson for me, is to go the principle route first and learn the principles, and then all of the structure and the parameters of the trade can come after. And so I'm still in it. I haven't solved it, but I feel like I'm on the right path more now than before, because I'm actually learning the principles of the market. So that was the first major lesson. The second lesson, and the second reason that trading is so hard, that I learned from the book, is that even if you track 100 trades and you change the outcome from money and having a winning trade, and you make the outcome 100 trades, and not the way I was doing it, not taking a batch of 100 trades, because I was just taking a batch of 100 random trades. I mean, taking 100 of the exact same trade and then batching it together and using that as the outcome. So now the outcome goes from money to this batch of data that will tell you if this setup has a positive expectancy. So let's say you find out that it doesn't. And oftentimes I would take the same trade over and over again and realize, hey, I don't have an edge here. I'm losing money on this type of setup. The next part of feedback is to have feedback that not only tells you if you reach the outcome or not, or if you successfully achieve the outcome, but also if you don't achieve the outcome, then what do you need to fix? So if you're playing like the guitar and you keep messing up on a certain chord, then you know that you're not playing the scale correctly, but it also tells you which chord you need to work on. So you need to practice that chord over and over again. But with trading, even if your 100 trade batch of the exact same trade is not profitable, what do you do with that? I found it so overwhelming to just look at my data and say, okay, this is not a profitable setup. It doesn't have a positive expectancy. But then what do I do about that? Do I change is the stop too tight? Is the entry too early? Is the entry too late? Is the target too big? Um, like, what do I change? And are there other factors I don't even know about? Like, is it because the time of the year, or is it because some news announcement, or like, what am I doing wrong, and what do I need to fix? Do I just toss out the entire setup and say that this is not a profitable setup and just start from scratch? So there's just so many factors, and that's what trading doesn't offer. There's no clarity of what to fix, and those two major things: no clarity of outcome, um, and no outcome feedback. And then even if you have feedback and you know that your process is not good, what do you do about it? And the major lesson for me with regards to the second point about not knowing what to fix is to become better at keeping data and marking down the details of a trade. Had a journal about like what I thought during the trade and why I took the trade, but I never really found it as one of my strengths to dig deep into the numbers, and I feel like that's incredibly important when you need to figure out what to fix. Because if you look at the setup and you see that, well, this setup goes up 7 points before going down 4 points, and my stop is at 2 points, then I need to be below that 4 point threshold so that I can give it time to get to the 7 point target. But I can only know that if I track the data of each individual trade. So instead of just saving charts like I was doing and putting them all into a similar folder and looking at the charts, I needed to convert that into something quantitative. And that was a major lesson number two, which is take the visual data and actually do something with it quantitatively. And that has really made a difference because now I know that it's if I have a setup that's not profitable, I can see what's actually happening in terms of numbers and say, well, here it's going up 3 points, but it may not go much more than 3 points up. So it's possible that my target's at 5 points, but when I map out all the data, it shows that for this setup, it reaches a 3 point target 80% of the time, but it only reaches a 5 point target 30% of the time. And that could be because that 3 point target is at the high of a trading range. And for it to travel 2 more points above the high of a trading range significantly lowers the probability. So just by seeing that data, I would know that what I need to change is to lower the target because that 3 point target hits at a lot higher probability. So just by understanding the data and just putting it out on an Excel sheet, I can make better and more informed decisions about what to actually change. And putting everything into numbers, even though it's not my strength, really gave me more clarity and took away some of that overwhelm of what to do, and really allowed me to mess with the numbers and see what makes the most sense for me in terms of how to adjust these setups. So those are the two main lessons about trading education in general and how to not make it feel as hard as it felt for the first few years, and actually even the first like 4 or 5 years, because it's only a recent change that I've made to really focus um, on mainly trading and market structure, and then use that to make trading decisions and to focus on data and turn everything into numbers. So I hope that helps. I hope that's clear, and I think every lesson will be kind of this style. So I'll just say the lesson and then talk about how it's affected me and and the benefits that I've seen from making changes.